Hello, everybody. Welcome to Movies by McManus, the podcast where we break down movies, comics, TV, books, whatever kind of media you're into, in the context of who created it and what effect it's trying to have on the world. I'm your host, Greg. I'm with my brother, Mike, as always.
Hey, what's up? Should we give him the news?
What's the news? This
is our last time that we're going to be here in this studio.
In the studio, we are going to be changing locations. Soon.
We'll keep you posted on that.
We'll keep you posted on what that's going to be.
The show is continuing. Nothing's changing. You're still going to get the Greg's breakdowns. You're still going to get the podcast. We had a bit of an issue this week. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll be old news. But we're going to update to another plan as far as the streaming services because we've been hitting our quota. But you'll still get it on all the streaming services on Mondays. You'll get the breakdowns, you'll get the videos, you'll get the episode followed by the podcast each week. So nothing's changing. Nothing's changing at all as far as the show, as far as what we're doing.
The background might be a bit different.
Well, it'll definitely be different.
It'll definitely be different.
But this is our last night here. We want to thank our producer Alex, who's here,
and Kings Park
Studios. We're going to continue on with our other producer James at a to be determined location, but you won't even feel a. No. There's no break. There's no nothing. We're going to keep rolling. So keep checking in, and we're going to keep giving you the show exactly as we do it. It'll just be from a different place. So
that's right.
Just figured we let the people know about that.
That's right. And today we are breaking down The Sons of Sam on Netflix. It's a documentary series, and this week, and while last week we did Poisoner in Chief and then kind of Wormwood, I was kind of staying away from documentaries so much on this channel, but Sons of Sam is created by Joshua Zeman, who me and my brother are both fans of, and I wanted to do something of his. Specifically because his former documentaries, The Killing Season, has a lot to do with the Long Island serial killer, which is a case that me and my brother have both been interested in and have discussed on this channel before several times of our own theories.
I'm sure we will again, too.
I'm sure we will again. And then also Cropsy, which was another great documentary that he made.
Josh Zeman's a really cool dude. I've interacted with him a few times and gotten the chance to speak to him. He's like a real deal dude. So when he announced that this documentary was coming out, and all the amazing accolades that it got, I honestly could not be happier for him because he's such a real dude, and he's not some hoity-toity Hollywood type. He's a real director, a real journalist.
Right.
I would consider him, and he's just an amazing investigator. And so all the success to Josh Zeman with this, him having this giant show. I can't tell you how happy it just makes me personally.
It was happy as soon as you told me Joshua Zeman was going to do something on The Son of Sam. I was excited to just see something from Josh Zeman again, but
Absolutely.
Also because he always approaches topics from a conspiracy theorist lens, almost.
You could say that. You certainly could say that.
So that's why I was interested. I knew right away this wasn't going to be a straightforward documentary about David Berkowitz.
Correct.
That's not something Joshua Zeman would do, and it's right because while obviously the Son of Sam killings is a big part of this documentary, it's more about afterwards the story of journalist Maury Terry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who it follows his story and kind of how he got wrapped up in this. I'm sinking in my seat. In this kind of,
I think that happened to me once here.
Conspiracy theory that not a lot of the evidence doesn't pan out, and Joshua Zeman kind of
it does, though.
Some of it does. But it's more about the fact that there was this journalist, Maury Terry, who kind of was more interested in being right than having the truth.
Yes.
He was more interested in being right, and the fact that you see him spiral to the end that even if someone's disagrees with him a little bit, he's going to cut them off.
Yeah, he definitely has his blinders on. He definitely has a theory. I can't even say that he's like super off base, at least in the beginning.
Well, that was kind of what my problem was, and I said this in my breakdown of just like in the beginning, the original theory that he has that David Berkowitz did not act alone.
Which David Berkowitz corroborates. Now you could say, oh, well, he's a killer, so he's a liar. What's his motivation to lie there?
Well,
he's not getting out of jail because of it.
Well, I could get into that. But the original theory that David Berkowitz had accomplices, that he didn't do all the... There's evidence that can support this.
Absolutely.
If you had a different journalist, we might be talking about of just like we looked into this evidence and it turned out that there's more evidence that counteracts everything, and it turns out David Berkowitz did act alone. If you had a journalist that was that was less interested in being right and more interested in the facts, Maury Terry then connects it to kind of a national satanic cult.
Correct.
That I don't agree with.
Well, it's not whether you agree or not. It's whether there's evidence for it or not.
I don't see, and I'm more conspiracy theory minded than most people. I'm watching the documentary. First of all, I love the documentary because it kind of shows this journalist getting wrapped up in his head.
Yeah.
But in the theory itself, I don't think it holds water.
Well, the problem is there's no defined theory. What's the theory that the theory keeps unraveling?
Yeah, exactly. The ultimate evil theory of that there is this national satanic cult,
like a satanic mafia,
basically that's responsible for all these different murders.
Yeah. See. Right, but there are some things that are really interesting, like all the stuff that was happening in the park in Yonkers with the animal sacrifices. That seems to be corroborated by a few different people. There's the witness accounts that give descriptions that fit other people that aren't David Berkowitz. There's the whole thing about the snuff film, which doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility.
Right. Right.
So I mean, I think that. First of all, Maury Terry, he's not a good journalist.
No.
He's maybe started out as a good journalist and just started buying his own line of what this was going to be, and then he was just obviously a very stubborn person.
Yeah. But that was my thing.
Ego got in the way.
He took different things from across the different horrible events that may have not had anything to do with with each other.
Right.
And that's kind of where I think it goes off the rails, because one, he was definitely leading into the satanic panic that was going on in the 80s.
Yeah, and then they took advantage of him and made him a buffoon. Yeah.
But these theories, his kind of ultimate evil book and his theories definitely wouldn't have been as popular if it wasn't for the fact that the satanic panic was going on at the same time.
Well, let's just, first of all, jumping ahead a little bit, the college student who
he was right about. Yes.
Well, what do you mean he was right about?
Well, he said that the security guard was the one who killed her.
Right.
And it turns out he was right about that.
Correct.
Yes.
And what book did he have in his residence when they found him?
I don't know. What book did
This is the end of the documentary.
Was it?
They go to arrest the security guard in modern days.
And he has
Ultimate Evil. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. That's So I mean, that either that's a complete coincidence or it's a little. I'm not saying that's hard evidence.
Yeah,
but
no,
the point is,
but that's my thing of like, look.
It's certainly weird.
I'm more conspiracy theory minded than most people.
Yeah, you are.
We did do an entire episode where I basically connected Charles Manson to the CIA. But my thing is, we know the CIA is a real group. This national Satanist.
Well, the Process was confirmed to be a real group.
The Process Church is a real group, but something that I think it's only briefly mentioned in the documentary, that the Process Church are not Satanists. They're an offshoot of Scientology.
Don't they predate Scientology?
No. Scientology is from the 1800s.
No, it's not. L. Ron Hubbard's born in...
Oh, I'm sorry.
What are you talking about?
No. No, the Process Church was an offshoot of Scientology.
Okay. Well, let's start here. Did David Berkowitz act alone, yes or no? Your opinion.
I don't know. I can't definitively say whether I lean one way or another.
How do you explain the eyewitness stuff?
I can't.
How do you explain the stuff that he wrote that is obviously pertaining to his neighbor and the...
I can't, which is exactly why this is the tragedy of what Maury Terry did.
Yeah.
Is that this theory that David Berkowitz had accomplices, there's evidence to support it, 100%.
It can't be ruled out.
It 100% can't be ruled out.
Right.
But now that theory is forever going to be associated with Maury Terry and satanic panic. So no one's going to take that original theory that has evidence to support it seriously because of the ultimate evil and because of connecting it to this larger satanic goal.
Well, it's going to have to be someone who wants to be a good journalist and get at the truth. It's not going to be law enforcement who wanted it wrapped up in a bow. And it's not going to be, internet trolls that want everything to lead back to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's got to be somewhere in the beginning. That's what I'm saying,
which is also why, I brought up I'll Be Gone in the Dark in it, because Michelle McNamara, she was very good at her own personal theories don't matter. What matters is what can be proven.
I'm going to make another reference like I did last week to TWA 800.
Right.
So what Tom Stalcup and Henry Hughes and the folks who were responsible, I'm blanking on one of the other directors' names, but what they presented in their 2013 documentary is that the evidence suggests that a outside force caused the explosion, and they cannot rule out that a missile hit the plane or multiple missiles. But they're not saying this is what happened to the T. They have theories, but they're not coming out and saying it's definitely X, Y, or Z. They're showing this is what the evidence is saying. Yeah. So that's where Maury Terry failed. He would have. Yeah. He had a compelling story on his hands if he just said the evidence cannot rule out that David Berkowitz acted alone, but he just fell down a rabbit hole. He clearly had mental issues or something.
And that really is what this documentary about. First of all, I love this documentary. Something I said a lot about kind of the true crime documentary series that Netflix have been doing a lot of lately. A lot of them are too long. A lot of newer documentary series is just too long. I agree. This is 4 episodes, and it's the perfect length. It's the perfect length. Each kind of episode kind of does its own thing. The first episode is very just about the basic story of David Berkowitz and the killings in the 70s. The second one is there might be more to this than it seems. He may have had accomplices. The third one is when you really get into the satanic panic. And then the fourth one is kind of you know, the crescendo, his interview with Berkowitz, and you realize just like, oh, he's leading Berkowitz, and Berkowitz kind of is just telling him what he wants to hear.
The second Berkowitz interview is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Right. Yes.
I don't know. I felt like...
Here's what I thought when I was seeing this. Of when you're saying, like, what reason would he have to lie?
You're talking about Berkowitz.
Berkowitz. Look at the Amityville Horror murderer.
Okay.
Years later, in, I forgot what year, the early 2000s, he does an interview where he says, "Oh, my sister killed some of the people, and then I killed my sister." He said he was responsible for his parents, and then he left while he was gone. His sister murdered his younger children, and then he killed his sister, kind of
his siblings.
Yes. So I don't believe a word that guy says. 100%. Even though
what does that have to do with David Berkowitz?
What I'm saying is that's another case where a killer goes and does an interview where he does an entirely different version of events, while he also really doesn't have a motive, because they're not going to let him out of prison either.
I don't think you could just pick a guy and make it.
No, but I'm saying that there is precedent of, like, killers changing their story later on.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
Yeah, but there's also zero...
So the idea that Berkowitz may have been lying, like, I don't think you can rule out... The fact that Berkowitz himself says he has accomplices is enough... It's enough right there just to look into it. Is this guy lying or not?
Well,
but I'm also not putting it past David Berkowitz to just be lying.
Well, obviously you're not going to take his word for it, but you know, I didn't find. I guess there's a certain level of analyzation that has to go into it, where you say, does it look like a lie? Does it smell like a lie?
Right.
And to me, could you know 100%? Of course not. But it's not just you're taking him at his word. You're taking that, and then you're coupling it with the other circumstantial evidence,
right? Which
I think is there.
No, I agree. It's there to at least, like, this case should have been opened up again. I 100% agree with that.
Law enforcement had every intent on not opening it up because they wanted it wrapped up.
Well, because one, in the late 70s, like, approval of NYPD was almost at an all-time low.
Very crime-ridden
area, and the Son of Sam kind of, like, encapsulated how people felt in New York City at the time. He wrote in his letters of, like, I'm writing to you from the gutters of New York City. It's rat infested
but then there's a gutter avenue in Yonkers. Remember?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, all right. But what I'm saying of, like, you get this feeling of, like, the Son of Sam, at least from his letters, of, like, he's kind of this manifestation of, like, the rottenness of New York City.
Yeah.
And the NYPD really wanted this wrapped up. He was causing a lot of just chaos around the city, and he was kind of seen as just like this was the epitome of everything that could go wrong. Like all the missteps that took place of handling New York City at this time, how we let the city kind of go to garbage. Like, the Son of Sam was the culmination of all of that. And they really wanted this over. They illegally searched his car without a search warrant.
Yeah.
Which is where they found the murder weapon. So when it comes out, and then he pretty much immediately confesses. So when it comes out afterwards, this theory that he may have not acted alone, that a lot of the sketch artists that a lot of the witness sketches don't match his description, that you have some of the victims who survived, at least one guy who's in the documentary, looking at David Berkowitz saying, that's not the man who shot me.
I mean, and also the sketches weren't just a little off. They were not the same person.
Yes. So
which
Robert
doesn't
Ebert,
really happen.
Robert Ebert, in his review of this, he says, like, oh, this can all be easily explained by the fact that a lot of times witness sketches are inaccurate, which is true somewhat.
Yeah, not to this extent.
Almost never to this extent.
No.
Usually, like, a witness sketch will look vaguely, and what they mean by it's not 100% accurate is just like it's vaguely what he looked like, but like a lot of the details are probably different.
Yeah.
Someone's saying he's 6 foot and blonde.
Exactly.
So, which is exactly what I'm saying, of just like this theory that Berkowitz did not act alone holds water.
It does.
And needs to be looked into. And
Absolutely.
They didn't look into it simply because the search of his car was done illegally, without a search warrant. Without the murder weapon, all you have is his confession. He can easily just recant his confession, saying, I confessed because of the evidence you found illegally. So all of that, everything they had could have been thrown out pre-trial. And they could not run the risk of David Berkowitz going free. And it gets into all right, I want to talk about Satanism for a little bit.
Well, let me just say, you brought up, as far as the sketches are concerned, you brought up I'll Be Gone in the Dark. If you look at the sketches of Joseph D'Angelo, they were spot on the money.
Yes,
going back to 1972 or whatever it was with the Visalia ransacker.
So this idea that sketch artists can be off by that much, it really isn't true.
All right, what do you got on Satanism?
Well, all right. The Satanist angle, I don't know if I believe. The fact that there are, well, even just the park in Yonkers, of just like there's some graffiti and there were some like, I mean, he says in the documentary animal sacrifices, but
right.
how do you know if somebody hurting animals is necessarily a sacrifice?
Well, there was multiple people that attested to being there.
Right, but being there or seeing Berkowitz with the car with the Carr brothers, because the people in North Dakota where one of the Carr brothers, I don't know how much I don't know how reliable those people are, because you know who David Berkowitz is at this point. It's national news of who the son of Sam is. You know who Sam Carr is because he was his neighbor who got killed. And now he's coming to you and someone is saying, yeah, I saw David Berkowitz with Sam Carr. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe those people, and I really don't know if I believe the people in Yonkers who are saying like Sam Carr and David Berkowitz were together in this group. First of all right, Satanist groups in this country, there are a lot of them. Well, there's not really even a lot of them. There's two major ones. There's the Satanic Temple and there's the Church of Satan. You're
saying present day?
Present day.
Yeah.
But both of these groups have been around since the 60s.
Yeah.
And these groups really have never had a history of violence.
No.
Ever.
No.
First of all, the two major groups, neither of them literally believe in Satan. They use Satan as kind of a metaphor figurehead for their problems they have with religion or their belief of how life should be done. They have Satan as a figurehead, but neither of these groups literally believe in Satan. And the legitimate groups that exist, they rituals and like kind of violence against people, that's always been like the Christian the made up Christian like myth of what these groups are. That's not the reality of it. So even saying, let's say the Carr brothers were a part of a satanic group, everybody thinks that anyone who's part of a satanic group, because you hear that word Satanist, that means they must be okay with or be capable of violence. And just like history has shown us that that's not true, that we actually have a lot more to fear from radicalized Christians than we do from Satanists.
That's a fact.
That's 100% a fact. And I always...
radicalized religion in general.
And the fact of the matter is that Satanism is not a radicalized religion.
Yeah, I mean, look, do I think there's a giant satanic network that was behind everything? Not really. Do I think that David Berkowitz most likely acted entirely alone? I lean towards no. I lean towards no. I lean towards that he was part of some... I think there's too much circumstantial evidence.
Right.
You know, to the point where it's like, could it all be a coincidence? I guess. But I mean, that's a lot of... It's a lot of circumstantial evidence. That's as far as I go. You know, I'm right in the middle. I'm right in the middle. I think Maury Terry is a fucking idiot. You know, I think he probably started on the right path and like just had some problems in life and just couldn't let go of this white whale. Right. Which is unfortunate. But do I believe the law enforcement hook, line, and sinker? Fuck no. Yeah. You know, I think it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I know that's a boring answer, but that's what I tend to believe. That, you know, it's not a fucking... There's no satanic network that's that fucking organized. But then again, I mean, there's a lot of weird shit. I mean, the thing with the Hollywood producer, that ended up just being a money thing.
It's also the thing with the Process Church of like, he's trying to connect it to... The Process Church was a real organization. They disbanded in, I think, 81. But they were not a Satanist group. They were an offshoot of Scientology. And there's always been this Christian just using Satan as like the blame for everything.
Yeah, of course.
They
did that with music.
I want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Of one, in the original Bible, there is no mention of Satan or the devil in the original Bible. The Bible is written about 300 years later is when Satan is
1978.
There was no mention of the devil until 1978. The devil isn't brought into the Bible. He's kind of edited into the Bible about 300 years later. In the original Bible,
just a cool 300.
It's very clear that like the problems that the world has is because there are greedy people who are taking all the land and taking all the money.
Thank God we're over that.
And colonizing different countries. The original enemy of the Bible was the Roman Empire. Of basically like the last book of Revelations. It wasn't originally about the end of the world. It was about overthrowing the Roman Empire. That Jesus was going to come back and help the Christian people overthrow the Roman Empire. But 300 years later, now the Christians are in control of the Roman Empire. Now they're the ones with all the money. So they can't have themselves be the bad guy. And that's where kind of the devil is kind of placed into the Bible as just like this demonic figure who rules in hell, who he can now be... It's not us, the people in charge, who are taking all your money. It's this guy who's the evil. And you see that into the 80s. I don't think it's
like early divide and conquer shit.
I don't think it's a coincidence at all that satanic panic and Reaganomics took place at the same time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a divide and conquer. Yeah. It's don't pay attention to what we're doing. Worry about this fucking fake bullshit.
Exactly.
You know? And it's never mind that we're you know, starting the funnel of resources and sucking it out from the bottom and upwards into the 1%, which we're seeing now.
Where you have these Christian groups, a lot of them are poor white. Of now the fact that like through our like Wall Street gambling and the fact that rich people aren't paying taxes anymore and you guys are getting fucked with taxes right now, that's not really what's ruining your life. Dungeons and Dragons is ruining your life. Heavy metal is ruining your life.
Exactly.
Yoga is ruining your life.
Yoga.
Well, they wanted to ban yoga too, because that was another thing of in the 80s of just like yoga, anything that was considered like Eastern.
Yeah.
Was now related with it was anything that had its origins in anything other than Christian is now considered Satanist.
Right.
Which is also where the idea of like just saying the Process Church is Satanist. Well, they're not, but people will believe that because they're not Christians.
Yeah.
And that's why you can relate anything that's pagan or from like a Hindu religion like yoga is as just being Satanist. And that's what happened in the 80s. And I don't think if it wasn't for Satanic Panic, there's no way Maury Terry's book, The Ultimate Evil, would have been anywhere near as popular.
Well, I was going to say too, like, you know, you can make the argument that Maury Terry was just out to make a buck, but everybody that is around him seems to be in agreement that no, this was really his thing. Like
I don't think he was out. No, I don't think he was out to make a buck. I think it was I don't know, maybe it was just a happy coincidence. Maybe subconsciously he knew this is what people are hot about right now and this was going to get people's attention.
Yeah. I don't know. I go back and forth because like the whole thing with conspiracies, I don't go back and forth on Maury Terry. I think he was totally out to lunch.
Yeah.
I lean towards Berkowitz not acting alone. I don't get into the whole satanic, like, do I think there could have been a small group of them that were into some satanic weird shit and like the snuff film? Sure. Why? That's not impossible. You know, that's not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's fucking sick people in the world. Like the fact that they could have had a little group. I don't doubt that. I don't necessarily think it definitely is true, but you know, the thing with conspiracies is like, it's tough, right? Because there are legitimate conspiracies. There are legitimate like groups that work to, you know, conspire together to do really fucked up shit. And we see that in politics. We see that in different things that happen in this country and other countries. But at the same time, when you're looking for that like one tidy explanation, you know, or it's like, oh, the Clintons just like fucking murder everybody, or you know, that one tidy explanation is generally not that.
Right.
Do I think the Clintons might have murdered a couple of people? Maybe.
Probably.
A lot of circumstantial evidence there too. But we don't have to get into that.
Like,
and we just got pulled from YouTube. Damn. No, we're not popular enough for that yet. One day.
No, we could say whatever we want on this channel. Not whatever we want.
For now.
I don't know.
When we do our big Spotify deal in 10 years, we'll
here's my thing about
start getting pulled.
Conspiracy theories of just like I'm willing to believe it more if you're associating it with a group like the CIA that I already know exists, and two has a history of doing shady things.
Do you think there are groups that exist that we don't know about though in the government? Like the Bilderberg group, I guess we do know about that, but you know, that sort of thing. It's like, how far will you go? And I'm just asking, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause what is the line? Do we know what the line is? Like,
I think that most of the shady things are done by groups we know about.
Yeah.
And
the CIA and the FBI.
Yeah. And that a lot of these things aren't necessarily done in the shadows. There's not secret meetings. They're in boardrooms just legitimately discussing how can we make more money while we can destroy people's lives. And it's just,
like we just
a lot of the evil stuff that the high ups the wealthy people in power are doing are right in front of us. And it's just
we just
like,
bombed Syria and Iraq again.
Yes. And it's
like 2 days ago. Mainstream media doesn't say jack shit about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't just say jack shit. MSNBC and CNN.
That's the thing of just why I don't really believe in these secret groups, because it's like, what's the need for an Illuminati? When the rich people of the world can do literally whatever they want in front of us.
It's true.
Open about it.
Like,
what's
you just have this thing come out about billionaires and taxes. Everybody knows what happened. Nothing. But it was a news story last week. It's not anymore.
They're doing everything out in the open, and I'm gonna sound like I'm beating a dead horse because I've said this so many times on our channel, but like, we literally have a culture of billionaire worship in this country where they do whatever they want out in the open, and people either they just don't care, or they see for a fact that it's happening and just say nope. Or like, there's such Americans in general have such a mantra of just like, my eyes are lying to me. What I'm seeing and what I'm hearing right now is not what's happening. You know?
What do you mean by that? I don't disagree. I just think it's an interesting point.
I mean, what don't I believe in that? I mean, there are people who believe that Joe Biden is a leftist. You know, look at what he's doing. Your eyes are not lying to you. Your ears are not lying to you. There are people who believe that Donald Trump won the election.
Well, yeah.
Your eyes are not lying to you. Your ears are not lying to you. There is no secret conspiracy. You know, what's being done to screw you over is being done in the open. There is no need for that.
I agree.
And that's the
I don't
painful
disagree at
part.
all.
There is no need for an Illuminati because people do not care.
It's true.
And all this, like, there are evil Satanists that are out to get you. That's all. Just look over there. Yeah. That was the same thing that they were doing back to the Roman Empire.
Having said that, though, I still don't think David Berkowitz like necessarily acted alone.
No, I don't know.
And again, that's the theme of the thing. So I'm trying to bring her back.
Back to the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
The Christians take over the Roman Empire. They create this evil boogeyman named Satan. It's only 90 years later that the Roman Empire falls apart anyway. You know why they fell apart? Because the people at the top who had all the money were funneling the money to themselves. The only thing they were willing to spend money on was the military, so that they could keep everybody else under control.
Oh, no.
And they weren't paying their own taxes. They were overburdening all the smaller kind of city-states with taxes, and that's why the Roman Empire breaks. They breaks apart, and you know who the people who in the high command of Rome, they blame the pagans in Northern Europe. They blame the pagans, and that's kind of where the situation of just like, these pagans are actually Satanists. They're the work of the devil. And that's kind of where we get all this stuff from thousands of years ago. History repeats itself of just like, it's their fault. It's not us doing it. It's this evil guy named Satan.
Let me ask a dark question. Is this country, like, over? Because on paper, we are the Roman Empire.
I don't know.
Everything you just described.
If you look,
sounds like right now.
Yeah. Am I
wrong?
I don't know. I
don't think the country is over because we own the world. So,
look, I'm not gonna like say I give up hope in America because I don't.
Well, we got Joe Biden in there now. Everything's fine.
I don't know what the future looks like. I mean, historically speaking, it doesn't seem so bleak. It doesn't seem so optimistic. Historically speaking, what happens to countries like us is that we break apart into smaller countries. That's what happened to the Romans. That would happen to Alexander the Great. So
that's a person.
Well, that's what happened to Alexander the Great's empire. That's what happened to Napoleon's empire.
Yeah.
Historically, things are not looking so good for us. But Satan has nothing to do with it. That's one thing I can say for certain. Satan has nothing to do with it.
Well, Satan doesn't exist.
No, he doesn't exist. That was what...
I mean, that's the problem with all this bullshit.
That is the problem, is that he doesn't exist.
It's probably Satan.
First of all...
Can we just have healthcare?
Even if you are a Christian, just look at the fact that the Bible is written and then this character, Satan, is added 300 years later.
What were you saying about homosexuals in the Bible? That it wasn't like...
There's no mention of homosexuals in the Bible until 1983.
So Satan invented homosexuality.
In 1983, the Church of Satan invented it. Wait, hold up. Whoa. That was a joke.
Yeah, they know. It's a fucking joke.
The original line that, Bible thumpers say that says they hate it,
right,
is not man shall not lie with another man. It's man shall not lie with young boys. And it's...
they ignored that part, though.
It's about pedophilia. It's not about being gay. It's about pedophilia. And then the Christians took power, and suddenly it's about being gay and not about pedophilia anymore.
Mm.
And that's, that's the truth. That's history. I
mean, even like a Pizzagate or something like that, where it's like they want to think that there's this whole network, but then it's like the problem is there are certain things that end up being true, like Jeffrey Epstein and so it's
and
like
possibly
that's
John
McAfee. Yeah, I was listening to Crystal and Sagar Breaking Points, and they were talking about how like it almost seems like McAfee might have even been like, this might have been his last like big hurrah for the spotlight, because he really did like set it up. If he did, it's like a conspiracy within a conspiracy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right.
Let me just finish the point.
Yeah.
If he did in fact make it kill himself and make it look like he got whacked, like as his last, how like when David Bowie was dying, he didn't tell anybody and he just dropped an album called Black Star and died 2 days later, just pieced out.
Yeah.
And he made his death a work of art.
Right.
Like they're saying that John McAfee is such a narcissist that he might have made his own death a work of art by making it look like he was important enough to whack.
I don't know enough about John McAfee to really have an opinion on it. He definitely seems like an egomaniac.
Right.
Here's what's suspicious about it. He was living in Spain, and United States famously doesn't have extradition with Spain. When someone's in Spain and they're wanted for a crime in America, like famously Spain's policy is that they don't send them back.
Well, they did.
Exactly, because someone from the United States came to Spain and asked them to send John McAfee back. If the only thing John McAfee was wanted for was tax evasion, we also famously don't give a shit about rich people not paying taxes in this country.
Correct.
So what else did John McAfee know or do that they wanted him back so bad? I'm not saying that necessarily means they murdered him, but it's definitely an interesting point.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
We did a lot on this one. This was
one off the rail. You want me to do a time check? We still got a little time here.
Let me talk about real quick. One of my favorite movies is about the son of Sam, The Summer of Sam by Spike Lee.
I don't know this.
Well, Spike Lee, he makes this movie. David Berkowitz is barely in it, and he makes a movie. It's really about the summer of '77 and kind of the heat and the chaos that was around New York City at the time, of just like every Every character is kind of on their last nerve. They're all ready to break. And so much is going wrong in New York at the time. There are massive blackouts all over the city because the city's power grid just can't handle the heat. It was one of the hottest summers on record. And during that time, there's also a maniac going around killing people. And there's also like punk rock is coming in, and it's kind of like an outlet for young people to kind of express their anger, but people don't really understand it. They think it's the thing that's causing people to be angry. So there's also kind of like this violent pushback against like the punk rock movement that's going on in the country. And it's just it's so great how Spike Lee, he kind of creates this chaos that David Berkowitz was causing or contributing to. And it's about that, and it's barely about David Berkowitz. David Berkowitz is in it for like a little bit. It's about the panic in the city, and I love that. And I compare it to this documentary because this documentary, David Berkowitz is barely in it. It's barely about.
I wouldn't use the word barely, but he's
not the main focus. It's called The Sons of Sam, but it's not the main focus. The main focus is kind of the aftermath.
Yeah.
What's going on afterwards, and kind of the effects and the legacy that David Berkowitz has, how it pushes on throughout the years, how it causes this guy Maury Terry to really like snap and go off the deep end almost. And I've said before that the myth of who someone is sometimes outweighs. Sometimes the myth of who somebody is becomes more important than the person themselves.
Of course.
And I think that might have been Maury Terry's problem. He built up who the Son of Sam was to be way more than just David Berkowitz. Of course, the Son of Sam was connected to an international conspiracy of Satanists. He's the Son of Sam. He has to be this grand, great, important person. This whole mythos around him. He couldn't have just been a dude from Yonkers or a few dudes from Yonkers. It had to be this huge thing because this was such a massive event and the chaos around it was so massive. Like, it couldn't have just been this small group doing it. It had to have been on a bigger level. And we kind of have these ideas as human beings of just like there has to be something bigger pulling the strings. So, of course, the idea that there is this, that it wasn't just one guy or a few dudes causing this massive panic, that it's actually this national thing that we have to get rid of. There is kind of this human
comfort
almost, yeah, in trying to say that things aren't as chaotic.
Well, it's the same human problem we always have, which is we want definition to our existence.
Right, exactly. And Summer of Sam specifically it's very much about that. It's about the kind of chaos and everything that's happening kind of around the killings. Summer of Sam, one of my all-time favorite movies. Everybody probably won't do this on the channel because we do more modern movies, but it's worth bringing up.
What's
because
it out
it is
on?
something.
One of the streamers?
I don't know if it's on any stream. I don't know if it's on anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could. I mean, I'm sure you could find it like illegally on anything.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just hearing. I mean, everybody. Even our parents, like they remember in the late 70s.
Everybody remembers Son of Sam.
Yeah,
it was a fucking. I was talking to Grandma recently, and she was like, "I didn't let the girls sit outside."
Yeah, people were dyeing their hair blonde because he was always focusing brunettes. And, yeah.
Anyway, that is.
Yes. That is the summer
Sons of Sam.
Sons of Sam.
I don't know where Greg's head was somewhere else
Another
tonight.
just like because he always approaches things in such a Joshua Zeman. He always approaches things by just such a unique way. As like almost conspiracy.
You know, it is true.
Killing Season was like that too.
Well, he lost a lot of people with Killing Season. A lot of people just the first 4 episodes are on the Long Island serial killer, and he famously sparred. I don't know if sparred might be a little bit strong, but he had a debate, if you will, an argument, a disagreement, let's call it that, with John Ray, the Shannon Gilbert's family attorney, because John Ray was basically saying, you're wasting your time trying to connect all these different, because the Killing Season, the first 4 episodes are about Long Island serial killer. Then they go to Atlantic City, a case there where 4 sex workers were murdered. Then they go to different places around the country. And, you know, the moral of the story is, unfortunately, this is not a rare phenomenon with sex workers being murdered.
Yeah.
But Josh and Rachel Mills don't want to leave her out. They kind of, in a similar fashion, they're kind of almost suggesting that there's this kind of network that's taking place. So in that regard, it is pretty similar. Cropsy, there's some of that, not as much as the other 2.
Yeah, I mentioned Cropsy, but I didn't.
It's good.
I haven't seen Cropsy in years.
Yeah, it's good.
I saw Cropsy, I think, when it like first came out. I believe 2009.
Yep.
Cropsy came out. Yeah, I saw it maybe like 2011. I remember it was about the killer on Staten Island.
Yeah.
A lot of the detail, but it also was kind of like
Satanic.
connecting it to like it's connecting it to like urban legends. Almost.
Yeah. He's
that
big
I
on that.
Specifically remember.
He's big on that. He has another show called Killer. Are you not well?
No, I'm fine.
I don't believe you.
I got some allergies.
I got some COVID. No,
I don't.
He doesn't.
I'm tested twice a week.
No, I know. I'm just fucking around. You sound like you got a little something though.
You know what?
And you're jittery. I don't know what's going on with you.
I think it's just like allergies. I don't know. I woke up with like a lot of phlegm in the back of my throat this morning. I don't know.
What else is going on? So we're not going to be here anymore. This is our last episode here. We're going to have a new set. We're going to figure it out.
We're going to figure it out.
This is one of our looser endings we've ever done. We're just talking shit.
Yeah, David Berkowitz is still alive.
And we're back.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, he's not that old.
No, I know, but
he was a fucking kid. I didn't realize he was that young.
He was 24.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Well, because
I thought he was like 40.
Like he was fucking 50.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always.
I know.
It's not
24. He looked like Danny DeVito in the fucking
also, like,
as the Penguin.
It's so.
That was funny.
It's crazy to think of like these people from like the 70s who you just like, yeah, of course they're dead by now because that was forever ago.
People
and
were
then
not
you
healthy.
Realize that like, oh, it was actually not that long ago. And he wasn't that young. And he wasn't that old.
Also, people didn't take care of themselves back then.
That's true.
People looked like shit at a young age.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
I mean, I remember being a kid and thinking like, you know, a 40-year-old was like fucking ancient.
Yeah.
Now I'm closer to 40 than 20.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Cool.
The Sons of Sam, Joshua Zeman. Even if you're like not into conspiracy theories, it's just like a great 4-episode docuseries about this reporter, and really just following him spiral is great. And it's the perfect length. It's not too long. A lot of these like murder crime docuseries, they go on forever, and this one, like, it's the perfect length. Joshua Zeman is great.
I thought it was a little long, I'll be honest.
You thought it was, well,
Josh is my boy. I love him to death, but you know, that's the format now. So it's I'm sure there's parameters that Netflix has.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but,
I don't know if they're gonna like release a 3-episode
thing. If we start doing guests, I feel like he would say yes if we wanted to do it.
I'd be pro of that.
Let's talk about our plans on the air. That's always a good idea. But today's a loose one. We're just vibing out.
Loose one. Well,
vibing out, man. It's a vibe.
All right. The Sons of Sam on Netflix. Joshua Zeman.
He's the man. Shout out to Josh.
If you like this video, this podcast, you could check out our YouTube channel where I do the smaller kind of 10-minute breakdowns about each subject. You can also watch the video format of this podcast along with clips that we put together of different ones. Michael is doing an Instagram right now.
Signing off from Kings Park Studios.
Hello, we're in the middle of a podcast and you're putting it on.
We're actually live right now.
We're live.
We're not live.
Shooting.
We're just recording.
Okay.
All right.
Watch Sons of Sam on Netflix.
Signing off from Kings Park Studios. All right, we'll see you. Thanks for the support.
Follow us on social media, Movies by McManus.
Movies by
I'm your
McManus.
host, Greg, and have a good night. And with my brother, Mike.
Joe Biden, you're slipping, son. Get your act together.
And you're posting it right now.
Why the fuck not? That's called real life.
All right.
All right.
And have a good night.